In this episode of Cyprus Diaspora Uncovered, education leaders, researchers and policymakers explore how Cyprus can strengthen its position as a regional hub for world-class education, research and innovation. The discussion examines the role of higher education in building a knowledge-based economy, attracting international talent, fostering research excellence and driving sustainable economic growth. The episode also features a keynote presentation highlighting the achievements and vision of the University of Cyprus, the island's first public university, and its commitment to academic excellence, impactful research, and meaningful contributions to society. This panel discussion was recorded live at the Cyprus Diaspora Forum on May 8, 2026 at the AMARA Hotel in Limassol, Cyprus.
My name is Christina Hileos, founder and director of InnoEuSphere. We are active in education. From the other side, I would say, non-formal and informal learning. So I am very curious today to hear all your perspectives from the other side, from the academic environment. And I'm very happy that we will listen today Mr. Kleanthis Pissaridis in an opening keynote speech, Head of Academic Affairs and Student Welfare Services at the University of Cyprus, before we continue to a more, let's say, engaging and hands-on conversation. Please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Christina, for the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, dear friends, it's lovely to be here. I've been called today to talk about Cyprus as a global destination of education and research excellence. So you'll have to bear with me for the next 15 or so minutes. I know we are fast approaching our lunch break, so we're touching on dangerous property. And I do hope that you'll find this topic as interesting as I do. Now, the field of education and research in Cyprus has undergone very big changes in the last years. Let me just tell you that 35 years ago, there was no university in Cyprus. Any Cypriot student who wanted to get a university degree had to leave his country. He had to go abroad, study and leave. Basically, he had to migrate. The first university in Cyprus, obviously the University of Cyprus, accepted its first students in 1992 and had its first graduates in 1996. Now, fast forward to 2026. Just 30 years after that, we're boasting 14 universities in the country, many more higher education institutions, and a total student population exceeding 55,000, half of which are overseas students. And let me tell you, it's not just about the quantity, it's the quality as well. The universities in Cyprus are highly ranked in world university rankings. They are offering state-of-the-art facilities, cutting-edge research. Students are being taught by top-tier academics from across the globe. And all the degrees offered by our universities are internationally recognized, offering our students direct access to jobs. Let me just tell you that, if I can say for my university, the University of Cyprus, we can say that 95% of our graduates have access to full-time employment just a few months after their graduation in fields directly related to their studies. In achieving this, we are not just relying on sheer luck. All this has been made possible due to a number of reasons. First of all, careful planning, both by the public and the private sector. We had to change legislation. We had to put down incentives. We had to attract seed money from Cyprus, from abroad, from the Cypriot diaspora, which has played a critical part on all this development. Secondly, Cyprus's strategic positioning has played an important part. Cyprus is in the crossroads of 3 continents. It has access to 500 million people within 3 hours flight. It's a safe destination, has one of the lowest crime rates in the EU. That's very important for students to choose our country. We've got an international, vibrant community. It has always been here. There is strong proficiency in English. We are preparing programs, we are teaching programs in English. This makes it so much easier to attract international talent. And we have global partnerships. We have established partnerships with institutions and universities from the US, the UK, Israel, Greece, and beyond. This openness has helped us evolve and become the successful institutions we are today. And the synergies between the public and the private universities early on from the start of this expansion has played a critical part, because we early on identified that we are all in the same market. There is enough room for everybody, and synergies would help us all better develop. What has all this boost in education and research brought in the country? First of all, financial benefits. We can all appreciate the direct investment that's coming in for setting up all the education infrastructure. Secondly, we've got all the people, all the students who are coming to our country to study, bringing in tuition fees, rent, subsistence cost, creating a boom in the economy. And this is combined with the fact that Cypriot students no longer need to leave their country in order to study. They no longer have to pay in universities in Europe or the US to attain their degrees. And we've got research funding coming in the country. Just to say one number, from the program of Horizon 2020, Cyprus is currently getting more than 400 million euros from the EU, just under the umbrella of Horizon 2020. For a country the size of Cyprus, you can surely understand how important this impact is. But it's not just financial, it's also social. What we have created here is a prime example of how to reverse the brain drain. Our children, our students no longer live to leave their country in order to explore their potential. Furthermore, we have reversed the brain drain. We've turned it into a brain gain. How? We have top-tier academics who can now come to Cyprus, some of them amongst us in this room, who can come to Cyprus to work and study because we've got the facilities, the infrastructure, and the universities to just do this. Now, big challenges lie ahead. We are operating in an ever-changing environment. Just to name a few of the challenges, I have to mention AI. AI is not just changing the way you learn, the way we learn. It's challenging the fundamentals, whether we should be learning. If everything is accessible within the touch of a button, what is learning? Should we learn anything? Should we remember something, or we can just access it via our devices? Secondly, the job environment is changing. The job landscape is ever evolving. Jobs are changing, new ones are being created, old ones are being lost. What does that mean for universities? We cannot just respond to these changes. We need to anticipate them. That's because somebody who's starting his degree today will finish in 3, 4, 5 years. It would be too late for us to adjust to changes. We need to anticipate them, and we need to take action well in advance. Other challenges include the ever-increasing competition, and this is coming mainly from online courses. Following the pandemic, more and more universities are offering online courses, which means what? Our universities in our little island need to compete huge organizations, big institutions all across the globe. And if I could add a final challenge, I would mention political instability. We are living in turbulent times. We are living in a turbulent place. We've seen in the last 5 or 6 years, Brexit going on, a global pandemic. We've seen unrest in the Middle East. We've seen a war in Ukraine. We've seen the situation with Iran now. So all this comes into play when we're discussing where people will travel, where people will study. All these need to be taken into consideration when planning the future. Does that mean that the future looks pessimistic? Well, for me, no. I'm generally an optimist. I'm an optimist by character, but I do see the potential here. What we need is a good vision. And when I say a good vision, for me, the future is prosperous when we concentrate, when we give our effort towards quality. In order to ensure long-term sustainability, quantity is not enough. We need to improve our game. We need to see how we will be better. We've got qualification agencies, both internally in every university and externally. We've got a national qualification agency. We've got accreditation organizations all across the globe who can give us the credibility we should be seeking, and which will make it evident that our degrees, our research is worthwhile. Second thing we need to put into our vision is increased synergies.
Exactly.
Yes. Private and public universities in Cyprus need to work together. For all of us, I think it's quite clear that in academia, and especially in research, collaboration is what will give you results. And this will be part of how we manage our everyday life at the universities, but strategically how we see our future. In the part of synergies, the Cypriot diaspora has a very important role to play. Cypriot diaspora includes people who are our bridges to the rest of the world. They are our ambassadors. They maintain, they create the global brand name of Cyprus. They bring in talent. With diaspora and from diaspora, we can bring talent to Cyprus, and also we can bring investments. And this will enable us to sustain a future that is for the benefit not only of the universities, of our institutions, but for the country as a whole. Mm-hmm. Now, Cyprus has always been a place where civilizations met, where new things happened, where innovation was created. Today, we do have a chance to turn this legacy, to turn this heritage into a global engine, producing academic, producing educational and research excellence. The world is looking for places that are safe, that are open, that are innovative, that are human-centered. And I do believe that Cyprus can be that place only if we all build it together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Great insights, and I really want to reinforce what you have said about collaboration. And at the same time, we need to also highlight that the diaspora can also contribute not only by bringing them back to Cyprus, but maintain long-term collaboration, even though people might be residing in other parts of the world. Thank you very much. I would like now to welcome our other panel speakers, starting from Mr. Andreas Karagatsanis, President of the Board at the Cyprus University of Technology. I will ask each one of you to share a bit about your bio before we jump into the questions. So, Mr. Karagatsanis, a few words about you. I think we have a microphone that you can use.
Thank you, Christina. Excuse me. I have to start by saying how honored I am to share this panel with distinguished scholars, and I'm the one who is not academic at the moment. I'm here with a different status, the administrative part of universities. I am the one who was not fortunate enough to have university when I was going to study 35 years ago. So I had to go abroad. I studied in Greece and part in the UK and in the United States, returned to Cyprus and worked for a few years in UK government of the Ministry of Defense of UK in the bases in Cyprus. I was chief engineer there. I'm a civil engineer by profession. And then I moved to the city of Larnaca. I was the chief engineer of the city of Larnaca. The last 2.5 years, I'm in the board of the Cyprus University of Technology, first as vice president and in the last year as president of the board. And I must say that 2 months ago, you see that banner there, Common Ground, Larnaca 2030, Cultural Capital of Europe. Since the 1st of March, I'm the general director of that organization. That's a new challenge.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to the conversation. I would also like to welcome Professor Maria Krambia-Kapardis, Professor of Forensic Accounting, again at the Cyprus University of Technology, bringing also immense experience from Australia. So welcome. I would like to hear a bit about your background.
Hi, and thanks for the invitation.
Our pleasure.
Okay, so I'm Maria Kapardis. I am from Watford. So after the Turkish invasion, I migrated to Australia with my family. That's where I grew up. I was educated, worked at the university there. And having met my husband in Australia, we decided to come back to Cyprus. So I'm a professor of forensic accounting. My research is in fraud investigation, fraud detection, corruption, and now ethical leadership and gender leadership.
Wow, astonishing. Well done. I would also like to welcome Professor Panikos Poujouris.
Hi, everybody.
Professor of Entrepreneurial Management, and I know that you have a lot of background and work in family businesses. So I'm very much interested to hear about that. So a bit about your bio.
A few words about myself. I am probably the only Nottingham Forest supporter in this forum, along with Sid. So, American Academy graduate, then University of Nottingham, all my degrees, University of Manchester, where I have developed academically under the umbrella of entrepreneurship and family business. I did return to Cyprus flexibly as a visiting professor, and then I did switch. Did stay at the University of Limassol, but kept my position at the University of Manchester because they insisted in their first contract to me that I do consultancy for 30 days. So that's food for thought if you want to repatriate talent.
Yep.
And I didn't want to break the bridges with the so-called UK academia. I kept at the University of Limassol and then did take on a leadership position at UCLan, initially as the dean, and then vice rector, and then director for a couple of terms. And I decided to pass the flagship, and they are doing much better now because I left, thank you. And I did continue under the family business families and family office with 2 positions, one at the European Institute for Management and Finance here in Cyprus, hugely into professional training online, face-to-face, locally, regionally, internationally, reaching 15,000 people, different business model. And at the University of Cambridge Judge Business School as an honorary fellow, where I developed and deliver executive education and modules, again, enterprising families and family offices for their executive MBA. So I have been research active and hugely engaged with the communities, both in Nottingham, in Manchester, and coming from Aradipu, there is another deep community in the Midlands. So I can throw a couple of suggestions.
For sure, during
How
the discussion, that would be
to
actually
do
very
talent
helpful.
acquisition, I suppose. Yes, it takes 15 years.
Thank you very much. And I would also like to welcome Professor Xenia Miskouridou, professor in statistics at the University of Cyprus, also coming from abroad with a significant experience. So please.
Thank you, Christina. I think it's really great to be here, and I speak from the Cyprus side.
Mm-hmm.
So me, I was here up to 18. I went to public Greek schools, and then I went to the UK to study at Imperial Cambridge and Oxford. I spent some time outside the UK, like in the US and in Switzerland, but then always went back to the UK. So my experience is mostly academic, but I spent some time in industry, a bit at Google as a data scientist, and then in finance as a machine learning scientist in investments and insurance. But I always went back to academia. So I went back to Imperial as a lecturer there when I quit my job to come to Cyprus. And I'm here since then, like 2.5 years ago.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I would like to start with the questions by asking Mr. Karagatsanis. Cyprus University of Technology has taken, visible steps in positioning Cyprus as an international destination. So from your view as president of the board, what does it actually take to turn such an established Cypriot institution into an international destination? And what is the single most important decision the Cyprus University of Technology as such has taken to move in that direction?
Allow me to read my notes. First, let me underline that to transfer any university into international destination is not just a matter of a single initiative or a marketing campaign. It requires long-term institutional culture built around openness, credibility, partnership, and academic ambition. This means that we have to start thinking beyond our geographical size and position ourselves within the global academic and innovation ecosystem. At CUT, we understood early that internationalization is achieved when, first, we are relevant to world challenges, and second, that we are attractive to global talent. And this requires high quality research. Internationally competitive academic programs, strong links with industry, collaboration with leading institutions abroad, and confidence. Confidence that a Cyprus University can contribute at the highest EU and international level. Now, the most important decision as a university, what we did as a university, was our decision to embed with major European and Chinese academic institutions and research networks through participation in the European University of Technology Alliance and cooperate with Chinese universities. And recently we're in discussion with Columbia University in New York. This collaboration changed the scale of our outlook, expose opportunities to our students, our researchers, and strengthen our mobility and joint research, and positioned our university within a wider EU framework of innovation and excellence. In addition to that, the initiative to create the new School of Marine Sciences, Technologies, and Sustainable Development in Larnaca demonstrate that universities must align growth with the strategic priorities and comparative advantages of our country. Cyprus is it has unique geographic, environmental, and geopolitical characteristics, and higher education should build upon those characteristics. An example is this School of Marine Sciences, in cooperation with the Cyprus Marine and Maritime Institute, which is a center of excellence and innovation funded by Horizon H 2020, based in Larnaca, and a very, very successful center of excellence, is cooperating with the new school, and that's why the new school went to Larnaca. And with proper looking at the industry and the research and internal demand, we already, I say we because I'm also part of CMMI, I'm in the executive board, we attract partners from abroad. So it's very important to look at these advantages of our city, of our country, of our location in the center of 3 continents, as mentioned before. So internalization is not just attracting foreign students, it's creating an institution that produces knowledge, talent, and innovation with global relevance while remaining connected to the needs of society and economy. The core challenge is to internationalize without losing identity and modernize without eroding trust inside the institution.
Thank you very much. I find it very interesting that steps in that direction, international collaboration and cooperation, are being done. And of course, outside Europe, I think that brings very different perspectives in the education landscape. And I would really like to jump to Professor Boujouris on the same topic, and as we expand this conversation, why is Cyprus, in your view, an increasingly credible destination for study and research? And as you have said in your intro, you have seen Cyprus from both sides. You have been a UK academic and a senior leader in the Cyprus landscape.
Thank you, Christina. First of all, let me just use the microscope to give some numbers, and then the telescope.
Yes.
Now, in terms of the numbers of the student population in Cyprus, Glanthis, you did a fantastic introduction. We are talking about 57, that's academic year 23-24.
Correct.
9,000 are more or less in colleges, 48 in the university sector, of which the great majority are in the private university sector. If you check now the recruitment of international students by the state university sector and the private sector outperforms the state university sector by 10 times. And this is not only the language, because my statistics are drawn from masters and PhD students. I ignore the undergraduate. So what I would like to do here is offer my congratulations to the state university sector, because they did a huge jump in the rankings, because they excel in research and in teaching, but they are more research and teaching. The private sector, they are more teaching and research. And the regulator, is anybody from the Ministry of Education? They should not insist that the colleges, they do research. They should encourage them maybe to do a case book with success stories of entrepreneurial startups or family firms going from generation to generation, celebrate the success of their alumni, and other initiatives in partnership with the other academic institutions locally and internationally. Okay? Now, one more. The private university sector, they do something different than the state university sector. And the state university sector, I don't think it's because they don't have the vision, they have the constraints of their financier, the government and the regulator. The House of Parliament has to approve a lot of initiatives. But what they have done in terms of tapping into European funding, it's phenomenal. You know, they've done a great job. Okay? Now, the model that I have been developing at Manchester Business School at the personal, at the center, and at the university level is the so-called integrated growth. So what you need, it's something called Kyrios. And you can use it. There is no copyright.
So we can actually
no
analyze.
patent. We have international legal experts here.
Yes.
What is Kyrios? K, it's curriculum. Undergraduate, postgraduate, face-to-face, distance learning, hybrid, what we call year-long, semester-long, block delivery. Because the professionals in the diaspora, they would love the opportunity to fly and land Wednesday. They enjoy Kubebka with their grandmother. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they complete the module. They mingle with our community of professionals and they go back. Now, why the regulator does not allow this? Ask your candidates for the parliamentary elections. So that's Kyrios. E is executive education, professional training. It's a lot of European funding. HRDA is doing a great job, you know, and the universities and the colleges should participate in that because they need to transfer the knowledge to industry, entrepreneurs, the next generation. And it's lucrative. R, it's research, academic research, scientific research, with a view to organize global conferences, with a view to get published and improve the rankings, and thus build also postgraduate research degrees and more PhD initiatives in partnerships with other universities. I, it's innovation. You know, we need practical diagnostics, you know, solutions for all the sectors of the economy. You know, it's not just the labor gap. You know, there is technology. O of the Kyrios is outreach, engagement, you know, with the youth, with the diaspora, with the third age, with local, international partners. And the S, it's synergies, partnerships across frontiers, cross sectors. So the Kyrios should have the local and the international dimension. And all this should translate into financial return because we need to be sustainable.
For sure.
And this is where I applaud the private university sector in Cyprus, because sometimes the regulation did encourage them to open up their wings. And we should be proud as Cypriots that last month, we have unique campus in Athens. We had European University campus in Frankfurt. They built the so-called medical card, you know, because there is excess demand for the supply of positions to study in medicine. But they did, you know, develop the integrated growth. And at UCLan, we used to do this because we were a small university and to make an impact beyond, you know, the so-called district of Larnaca, you know, that it was predominantly our catchment. We had to become more international. So that's at this stage what I suggest we do.
Exactly, this is what I was going to say.
Integrated growth. And to close, Kleanthis, you are right that there should be more cooperation between the private universities and the public universities. But I didn't see any cooperation between the private universities.
Thank you
So we
very
shouldn't
much.
complain. It's the financial model then. Who is financing what? But we should,
Yes.
consider all these dimensions. It's excellence, quality students, but we need to also enhance the student experience. That's your territory, Kleanthis, yes? Because university graduates in the UK, in other countries, they are allowed to work 2 years after their degree. What do we do with our international students? We allow them only to work in the certain part of the taverna. How do we connect with industry?
Yes.
So I don't have all the answers. Thank you.
That's a matter, of course, of discussion here and in other, of course, panels around the ecosystem here in Cyprus. I would like to reinforce not only the number of students. We have 59 institutions, colleges, universities, and research institutions in Cyprus that deal directly with research and innovation. And I think that's an important number to mention. And building on your point on capacity building need. So imagine if we replicate education and training through all of this number of people working in these institutions. So yeah, I would like to now, go to the next question for Mrs. Professor Kapardis, actually a representative of Diaspora here in this panel. What do you think Cyprus offers to you and potentially to other colleagues that are currently abroad and would like to relocate to Cyprus? So the academic, let's say, environment, what did it give you personally and what it can potentially give to other people who might consider relocating back to Cyprus?
Thank you. If you can just allow me to use my notes, I can make sure I'm within my 4-minute slot.
Definitely,
So
for sure.
returning to Cyprus after a long and rewarding career in Australia was not merely a personal homecoming, it was a strategic choice informed by the remarkable transformation of this island's academic landscape. When people speak about what pulls an established academic back to Cyprus, I point to a system that has fundamentally reshaped itself, as it has already been mentioned. In the last decade, Cyprus has evolved into a legitimate international education destination. What is truly compelling for an established academic is the global character of this growth. More than half of our university students nationally are now international. This creates cross-border education that rivals much larger nations. We are no longer a peripheral system. We are a regional hub aligned with the European higher education area, the Bologna Agreement, ensuring our quality assurance and ECTS credits meet rigorous international standards. Now, for my own work in forensic accounting and corruption or anti-corruption, the environment is particularly ripe. The business administration field is the largest in the country. Thus, the government's strategic objective now to explicitly emphasize linking higher education with economic development and national priorities. This creates a vital opening for research into economic crime, corruption, ethics, governance, integrity, essential pillars if Cyprus is to achieve its global goal of becoming a center of academic excellence. Furthermore, my interest in gender in business and gender leadership finds a unique data set in Cyprus. While nearly 58% of our student population are females, there is stark disparity in women in leadership positions across the board, but in academia as well, which is considered, not only in Cyprus, but overseas, that it's considered an extremely gendered working environment. Mm-hmm. This gap represents a significant opportunity for community building and research into social dimensions of higher education. Now, if we want more academics to choose Cyprus over traditional powerhouses like Australia, the one that I know, we must address the gap. So what's this gap? First of all, we need to modernize governance. We need a legal framework that moves away from rigid structures towards modern, simple, flexible procedures that ensure accountability without stifling innovation. Research funding. Whilst yes, there is a lot of research funding going on, and research expenditure in Cyprus, however, is below European average. So we do have to meet global benchmarks. At the same time, apart from EU funding, unlike other countries, we don't have the millionaires in Cyprus that would fund academic research. We don't have the likes of Robin Gooda, for example, in Australia, who recently donated 100 million Australian dollars to the University of Sydney. Nor do we have James Davies or John Gatsimadidis who donate to US universities. Thirdly, the labor market interconnection. We are only in the early stages of scientifically documenting how our study programs align with the labor market. For an academic to thrive, they need to know their research and their students have a clear, supported path into the industry, and for their research to have a real impact on the community. And 4, language barriers. In public universities, as it was recently mentioned, we are very grateful that the Parliament has recently passed the legislation that we can offer undergraduate and postgraduate courses in English, which is a historic step that must be fully realized to attract best global talents, particularly academics. Finally, Cyprus offers the momentum of a system on the rise. We have the students, we have the international reach, we have the strategic ambition. Now, we must provide the legislative and the financial infrastructure to ensure that the pool of the island is matched by the professional staying power of its institutions.
Very nice. I keep the optimistic side of things that, we have a bright future ahead of us and we are in the right direction. I would say maybe as a suggestion, like academics like yourself maybe can act as a bridge for academics that live abroad and would like to relocate to Cyprus, like, a communications, let's say, ambassador that can transfer all the very good things of the ecosystem. Amazing. Thank you. I learned a lot from your response, actually. And I would like now to go with a question for Professor Miskoridou. I was impressed by your profile, I have to be honest, so young and so many, academic establishments. You moved from Imperial College for your bachelor's, then to Cambridge, then to Oxford. I see names like Google here. So you decided to come back to Cyprus. You have a position as a professor of statistics, that's correct, in the University of Cyprus. So I would like to ask you, Xenia, what made this combination possible and what was the part that you felt like things were hard for you, let's say?
Thank you very much, Christina. Well, it sounds a bit unfashionable, but I don't feel that my path was, planned or designed by me or by anyone else. And by anyone else, I mean, like, for example, from some mentor or something like that. So I literally, like in every step, I was driven by the enthusiasm I had for the field I was in. So I always did what excited me and what, challenged me, which meant that I pushed myself a lot. So I was quite often outside of my comfort zone. Which on the one hand, led me to great experiences. So, during my PhD, I left the PhD like 2-3 times to do, nice things and then came back. But, it also meant that it was like difficult in general. Being in very demanding environments for more than a decade is hard because
it's not easy.
There is no one really there for you. Like really, no one has your back. Like, you learn to operate without a safety net. And I think that's a skill, but it's also a tax. I'm sure that some very talented people would say that it isn't worth it, for example. But what's the real difficulty? I think it's to make choices, right? And make the right choices and make the right choices at the right time. And I'm sure like all of us find this difficult. And, how much risk do you put in these decisions you make? So I would make some more risky decisions. I did take the risk in some times. For example, like leaving a great job I had in finance for a fixed term, very low paying job in research, things like that, where you don't know if it's going to work. And since I did this during the lockdown, there was double the risk if it's going to work. But, I did it because it felt right to me and it didn't feel right to anyone else around me at the time, but it did feel right to me. So, I think if there's one message for, young people, listening to this is like, do what genuinely excites you and challenges you and takes you forward. take risks, listen to people and gather information, but make your own decisions. And there is going to be a cost in the path. The cost is real. But at least for me, the real payoff is being able to come back to Cyprus to a very nice role and, being able to do some meaningful work here.
Amazing. We have to be honest, it's not an easy task to be an academic.
No, it's not.
Especially in statistics. So thank you, Xenia, and for the courage and for going for your calling, let's say. I would like now to return to Mr. Karakatsanis with, I think, a very important question, at least for me. We mentioned a lot the word excellence. This is also, a highlight of our panel discussion today, coming from the board of the Cyprus University of Technology. Really, how do you measure excellence? How do you protect it? And especially, we heard about financing challenges. So when the budget is tight, how do you protect excellence? And how do we really also compete, let's say, with other ecosystems like Malta, Ireland, Netherlands? So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to your answers.
Well, thank you, Christina. First of all, I mentioned before that we are cooperating with the Center of Excellence, Cyprus Maritime Institute, but also in Cyprus University of Technology, we are part of Eratosthenes Center of Excellence, the Excelsior Center of Excellence, which is Eratosthenes part of it. And also we are part of the Science Center of Excellence. So we are very much into excellence. And this part of European Centers of Excellence gave us some intuition on how to measure excellence. And we're using the KPIs that are in somehow given to us by the European Union to see whether we are doing well in excellence, like number of publications, sorry, and participation in international conferences and so on. So excellence is it has to be measurable, it has to be accountable, it has to be sustainable. And at our university, the board and also the Senate, the academics, they look at excellence through a combination of factors like academic quality, research impact, international competitiveness, graduate outcomes, and societal contribution. And we examine indicators like research performance, international collaborations, securing EU funds. That's very important that to be able to be good enough to secure European funds or international funds for that matter. Employability of graduates, which is very important, as mentioned before. Innovation, outputs, ability to attract distinguished researchers, entrepreneurs, and students. True excellence includes institutional culture as well. I mean, it's reflected in whether the universities encourage critical thinking. It's very important that we let the freedom to the students and the professors and the academics to have critical thinking and not strangled by external factors, let's say. We have to have in the disciplinary collaboration and meritocracy, very important, and continuous improvement. All these are not part of the rankings as mentioned before. I mean, this is different, but this is what at the end of the day determine our long-term success. Now, how do we protect excellence? As mentioned by Professor Kapardis earlier, governance is very important. It has to be modernized and a good governance that protects our excellence. And what do we do under financial pressure? Good governance, protect it. And we have to resist the temptation of reducing investment in research, talent and international engagement, and which all these determine our future competitiveness. Financial discipline is of which obviously necessary, but strategic priorities must remain protected. Excellence requires consistency and long-term commitment. Now, to compete with other small countries of our size that are successful in excellence, we must decisively invest in three topics, in three areas that are interconnected. First, in the research and innovation capacity. Universities are not just educational institutes, they should be engines of economic transformation. Second, international talent attraction and retention. We have to be able as Cyprus to attract highly skilled researchers and students and be able to retain them here. And the third and important is a stronger integration between universities, industries, and the public sector. Innovation ecosystems thrive when knowledge moves effectively between academia, business, and government. We mentioned before that as a state, as a country, we have significant advantages. We have strategic location between three continents. We are a safe country. We have good quality of life, and we are a member of the European Union. Now, the challenge is to combine all these advantages with long-term national commitment in research excellence, in innovation, and integrating international academic competitiveness. And CUT, Cyprus University of Technology, is striving towards that goal.
Thank you very much. Mr. Andreas, you're actually taking me to my next question to Professor Poujouris as to which areas should Cyprus genuinely lead. I think this is coming definitely from the answer of Mr. Karagatsanis. And because you have raised this, let's say, topic in your first response, where should state and private universities be working together, but more deliberately?
Yes, I think, if you take Manchester has 4 universities. Mm-hmm. We had an initiative, Masters in Enterprise, parentheses, civil engineering, parentheses, chemical engineering, parentheses, agro farming, 12
interdisciplinary.
Mm-hmm. And it was the University of Manchester, it was Salford University, it was UMIST University, Manchester Metropolitan University, University of Liverpool, Lancaster University, until everybody was to become sustainable. The government gave 12 million. The account was opened at the University of Manchester, so this is why I know. But it did involve all the universities. Mm-hmm. So if you identify, and we know primary sectors that we should support again, and I'm not going to talk about fintech. Fintech doesn't need help. Fintech wants regulation free to get on, and they are pro-risk and there is capital, etc. But if you take some primary sectors, if there is a lockdown again, or if Suez Canal is shut, mm-hmm. We will starve.
Yeah.
So going back to high-tech agro-farming, we can benefit. You can inject technology, innovation, entrepreneurship. I'm just giving you mm-hmm. an example. Yeah. And I think to implement this, because it's good to come up with ideas, to implement this, and we have people that excel on a global basis. So what I would like to offer is, 5 suggestions, for the proceedings, how we can indeed engage with the diaspora. So, universities, how many scholarships do we give to the people of the diaspora? Mm-hmm. Cypriot Australians, they will be delighted. Subject to full scholarship to half scholarships, all the universities. so that we can bring them here to enjoy, the rejuvenation of what we call patriotic roots, with a view that they can bring their know-how, and it will reduce the risk if they decide to move back. Secondly, we can have what we call entrepreneurs in residence. There are success stories. Theo Panellists will be delighted to be at the University of Cyprus. It's not going to be for a year. It could be 4 times per year to run a workshop, how I did it, lessons, okay? Another one, to get what we call the synergies between private colleges, that they are excelling in certain fields that, we have been ignoring. You don't learn the so-called the ropes of how to come up with high-tech plumbing in our universities. In the universities, we teach theory, but we could put something online, training all the sailors whilst they're out in the seas, using the know-how of the colleges and the online technology platform of the Open University Cyprus, which is, not fully utilized, in certain areas. So all these, we need to sit down and discuss how to implement, not just, ideas. And others have done it.
Yep.
Others have done it. Some of them are sectoral. So if you call a meeting of what we call special interest group, we will look into the priorities per sector, per age group, and address other serious problems that they are coming. I'm coming from Manchester, and I'm a regular to the church there. The community is disappearing there, because there is a gap. The first generation is still running the committee. The second generation kept the distance from their forefathers and foremothers. And the third generation, it's assimilating, it's pursuing the professional route, and it's good that they do this. But there is a gap between the first and the third generation. So let's call a conference 2035, and we come up with practical case studies, 4 pages each, how to address these problems.
Yes. What I'm getting from your response is that if we really want to bring, let's say, effective collaboration, there are solutions. Just we need to get our hands on the topic with more initiatives, no?
The University of Cyprus can take the lead. You can offer us the campus facilities, Kleanthis.
Perfect.
I put down the commitment of the University of Cyprus in order to...
Thank you so much. That's very important. And I think a very nice conclusion, let's say, from this panel. What I would also like to add, something that I've heard from both of you, maybe an idea, a suggestion in terms of governance. If, for example, the Cyprus public universities do a better governance than the private universities, maybe there can be a learning model and synergies in this regard, especially as to how sustainability can be ensured. I'm not saying that the Cyprus public universities are doing a better job. I'm just saying how we can, let's say, learn from each other. That's a common, let's say, governance framework. This is something that I would like to bring into the discussion, and also making a natural bridge now to Professor Kapardis, because really your research keeps returning to a hard truth that excellence is not only about outputs, it really has to do with integrity, ethical leadership, trust the ecosystem. So if Cyprus is to be, let's say, a credible destination for research excellence, how much that depends, and here where the governance comes, how much of that depends on the governance climate around the universities, public and private, and where should we start reforming first?
Okay, thank you. So integrity is the bedrock of excellence and the hard truth of reputation. Excellence is often measured in H indexes, grant totals, patent filings, but as my research suggests, these are merely outputs. True excellence, the kind that attracts global talent and sustainable investment, is built on outcomes, on integrity, on ethical leadership, on trust. So if Cyprus is to become a credible global hub for research, we must acknowledge that a university is only as strong as the governance climate surrounding it. You cannot have islands of excellence in a sea of systemic opacity. The governance climate is not a background variable. It's a primary determinant of our international standing. Now, in my work on addressing fraud and corruption, ethics and ethical leadership are the antidote to corruption, modern slavery, and gender bias. Now, to understand where we stand, we must look at principles established and discussed in most of my publications dealing with the holistic approach to addressing corruption. Now, my work consistently reminds us that anti-corruption is not merely a legalistic check-the-point exercise. Thus, we need values-based leadership to combat corruption in business and institutions, whether through nepotism in appointments or lack of transparency in lobbying, for instance, which thrives where there is no ethical leadership. Secondly, the ethical infrastructure, we must move beyond compliance towards integrity. This means embedding ethics into the very DNA of our society, organizations and universities, ensuring that academic merit is the only currency of value. Thirdly, universities are not an island. They are a byproduct of the society they exist and individuals. As I tell my business ethics students, having one shower in your lifetime of ethics is not enough. And we need to address sustainable goals, and in particular, the ESG blueprint for reform. We cannot make an omelette without breaking eggs, and we should not be worried as academics to get our hands dirty. Yes, we can touch research that may make some people unhappy, but I've done that. I stepped on too many toes by looking at corruption back in 2010, looking at bribery, lobbying, whistleblowing, revolving doors, and more importantly, in 2017, I suggested the implementation of the Independent Commission Against Corruption. It took 5 years for the government to implement it, but finally it's there, and that makes me proud that I had to touch dirt, but I managed to do it. So if you ask where we should start reforming first, the answer lies in the modernization of governance through ESG. So we need to look at governance as a starting point. We must reform university boards to ensure independence, diversity, strict conflict of interest protocols. The universities must be accountable to the public, particularly the public universities. We get government funding for that, so we should be accountable. Transparency in how we handle research misconduct and financial allocation, which is built on the trust capital. And finally, how do we move forward? We must decouple university administration from political patronage. We need to implement a holistic approach by treating anti-corruption as a holistic ecosystem, whistleblowing protection frameworks, gender diversity, and most importantly, a shift of culture from top to down.
Thank you so much. What I keep is the societal outlook of the universities from the society to the society. Many times when becoming occupied with too much research, let's say work, we tend to forget. And I think that's important to highlight. And a final question now to Professor Miskouridou. Xenia actually also connected to the previous response. If Cyprus is going to be a real destination for early career research excellence, not just for you, but for, of course, for the next generation, either statisticians, engineers, scientists. So what three structural things do you think should change, or what you would change in this specific case?
Thank you, Christina. So you talked about early career researchers. So, on a research level, this is, let's say PhD students, postdocs, or, like lecturers, early stages of the academic path. So I think the first thing that comes to my mind is research funding. Okay, I'm an academic, right? So I do research. I need funding for my research. I need to build a group, but this means I need to hire people. So I think everything always boils down to funding research. And one of the most important stages in the academic career is the postdoc level. And at that level, I think we need to improve a bit this, postdoc stage in Cyprus, which means more targeted research funding from, national agencies, not just international. We cannot always, rely on the international, fellowships. And why is it the most important stage? Because, that's where you become independent. That's where you become more productive. So I think that's a kind of broken step for research scene in Cyprus. But at the same time, an early career academic, again, needs funding. It needs more funding than what, we probably have. I need to acknowledge at this stage that, for example, the University of Cyprus, they do give a startup grant. And I know that is relatively new. It wasn't since the beginning, which is definitely, helpful. And it's great that it's there. But it's also not enough because I can't hire a postdoc for more than 9 months with that money, or a PhD student. So this means, you can't have access to the talent that you wanted to have and everything. So it's great that it's there, but it needs to, expand. And connecting to these sort of funding schemes, why not having, return fellowships, like diaspora return fellowships, if we want, to bring people back, as it was mentioned before as well. And this is not something new. It's not something that, I thought, but it's something that exists in Europe and in, elsewhere in the world. So yeah, kind of first area for me is research funding. The second part is collaborations, which, this is something that has been mentioned a lot today. So I don't want to repeat the part of collaborations between, private and public. For me, it's super important, the collaboration between academia and industry. So my field is statistics and AI, and I think that's a great area where you can connect industry and in academia. But how can I do this in practice? Solid steps when we can't really have co-funded PhDs, between the two. So I truly believe in that. It would benefit both, academia, but also industry, and also the students getting a job afterwards. And yeah, the third bullet point for me would be governance, which again has been mentioned, here and there. So I'll point the attention now to the targeted recruiting, right? So faster recruitment cycles, more targeted recruitment cycles, following the international trends and standards in how, academics are promoted and how they're evaluated as well. And drawing a bit from my personal experience, I do statistics and AI, but, the AI part wasn't so appreciated, from the department, let's say, so I don't think this is something that should happen, right? If the world is going one direction, we should probably keep that direction. And it's true that things change, and there's been a lot of changes. But there should be more targeted steps.
I think that's a very important message, and especially regarding minimizing bureaucratic, let's say, system in that regard. So thanks for bringing this insight. We are just on time. It's 1:30 now p.m. and I know people also would like to move to lunch. But before going to lunch, I would like to hear from each one of you a key takeaway point, an action point. I would say I'm not interested to hear anything in theory. And what initiative do you think can be, started from this conversation today, starting from Mr. Kleanthis?
Thank you, Christina. It's been a lovely chat. Very fruitful. Before going to my point, just to note that today through the panel, we can see the impact that the booming in education and research has had in Cyprus, because Maria, Xenia, Panikos would probably not be in Cyprus if there wasn't for the universities. And even if they were in Cyprus, they would have been underutilized as resources of the country. So this is the direct impact of what has happened in the last 35 or so years. So my point, building on what has been said, I must stress the word collaborations and synergies. So what I would suggest is to have a structured forum where universities, private and public, at their highest level, could meet and discuss strategy for the education and research ecosystem of the country. That would be my
That's amazing, and I have noted it down. Thank you so much.
on the agenda of this meeting. Number one suggestion that all the universities, they designate one module, block delivery, 15 hours with guest speakers, so that when the diaspora confers in Cyprus, but some of these modules, they can be also live streamed overseas, and we can offer the opportunity for our diaspora to participate in some of these modules. Just to give you an example, Cambridge Judge Business School every February offers all the alumni an opportunity to come to the university and do 2 modules with the compliments of the university. And it's Friday, Saturday, my elective.
That's
popular.
very nice. I would add, if you allow me, open participation.
Subject to, yes, so that we bring the right people.
Exactly.
Not to sell, but to contribute. Yes.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great suggestion. Xenia.
So focusing more, let's say, on the diaspora connection, since my colleagues mentioned already some great points. Talking as academic, right? So I would like to see and have more like open channels with diaspora, which means very practical things. Joint, co-supervisions of PhD students, sitting on committees, being able to send my students there to their labs, to their networks, to their workshops, or like guarantees of hiring a postdoc for a year and knowing they will come back. So practical collaborations on this level.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Xenia. Mr. Andreas?
Reversal of brain drain. That's the most important thing. I'm a victim of my daughter lives and works in abroad. So brain drain, reverse it into brain gain. And diaspora can assist immensely in this issue.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I have two suggestions. One is that I think whilst, yes, you can have the rectors deciding on how to move forward, unless you also have the base, the academics willing to do that, you are not going to have this shift. So you need to have the base. You need to bring academics on board, willing to do that, to get this shift. And secondly, I know that the University of Cyprus is doing it. Unfortunately, DEPAC is not doing it. We need to go out there to diaspora. I know University of Cyprus sends professors to Melbourne. I happened to be there once, and they just give out lectures about general topics that they research. So it's word of mouth. People need to trust us. In diaspora, they need to trust us as academics to send their kids here, or we can attract other researchers to come back.
Amazing. Thank you very much to everyone. I think we have heard very, very significant insights. It was very nice to hear also from the public and the private perspective. I really wish that we can touch upon on a very practical way on all of these, let's say, key takeaway points. And I am very hopeful and very optimistic for the future of academic excellence in our island. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Cyprus Diaspora Uncovered. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts for more inspiring conversations that are shaping Cyprus's global future. You can also explore more episodes on our website and selected video interviews on our YouTube channels.